This phase, though, led to the birth of a completely new phase in your life where you have emerged even more high profile and even more international figure as the chairman of Mayhula for Investments, which has Valentino and Balmain. Now you are the chairman of as well. And it launched you into a completely different world. It's amazing to see you adapt from the consumer goods business into government and now into the heart and pulse of the luxury fashion world. Was it something you chose, or was it something presented to you that you thought it was an opportunity?
Sure. I went through a difficult phase. I was unjustly and unfairly deprived of all my wealth, of all my assets. Later on, everything came to in order because everybody knew that this was all a lot of nonsense and a lot of false accusation based on conspiracies. But for a period of time, there was a situation where I had to start almost all over again. Having the chance in my age, in my situation, in my time, to start all over again was real fun. To be in a different environment, to be in a different even country, where I had to throw away my phone. And I decided, I'm starting a new phase in my life, and I'm starting a new phase where even all what my family and myself have created and people wrongly trying to take out of me, because this was really something my family and myself worked very hard in a very decent and fair way. Before joining the government, we had zero interference with the government in any business. I mean, it was one of the principles of my father and one of the advice of my father when I was in business to tell me, son, go into businesses where you don't have to deal with the government. That was the reason why we were in consumer products. If I'm selling Lipton tea, or if I'm selling fine foods soup, or if I'm selling a Coca-Cola, I don't need the government. It's between me and the consumer. We built one of the most decent businesses and value creation in that period of time in the country. In a wrong way, and people try to deprive us from all this, which happened for a period of time. And then, as I said, justice came back and every institution in the country came back, and I said, you are right, nothing. Because I was one of the few people that they have gone through 100% scrutiny, trying to find anything wrong, and I couldn't. And I came back and I said, okay, we know that everything is right, and not only the courts, but every institution in the country said you are right, and that came later. But during that period, I had nothing. I had no access to anything. But it was fun, because I felt that challenge that I have to start all over again. And that's fine, because if you have the capabilities in your mind and you have the trust of the people and the business community, which I was blessed to have it, everybody who knew me in business, I have a lot of trust, and we had a very high respect to work together. It was really an exciting time, because if you go back again to what excited me in life, it wasn't the money. And I remember my wife always keep telling me during that time, don't worry about this. Money in the banks doesn't mean anything. It's all what you can do and how you can do it. You should not worry about all these problems. And I started to think in a very open way of how I could come back into business. I was also very keen to go back into business. During the period of time I was in the government, I had zero involvement in business. And I am a man who is very operational, so I want to wake up in the morning and get involved in the business. So for a number of years I was out of it, and I decided to go back, and I had to make a choice which business I should go in. And I decided something very unusual, very challenging, to go into the international luxury business. I started by investing in Valentino with the support, of course, of investors. And I started building the business of luxury in a very, very aggressive way, because it has to be international. I mean, this is not a kind of business that you do it at small level. You have to do it at a very international level. And you have a very fierce competition across the world, and it has very, very high visibility. But that was a choice. I wanted to go back in luxury. I decided mentally that this is something I want to do. I want to go back into consumer, but I didn't have a chance until later when I acquired Lipton from Unilever, and now I am also one of the main investors in Lipton globally in the world. But that was nostalgic, because I was very full of...
we were wondering about that.
It was more nostalgic because this is something I built in the past, so I wanted to go back, and I had the chance to buy Lipton globally and build that business with my partners. But my time was more in businesses that has a creative element. And I started with Valentino, but it expanded into many other things later.
But what made the decision to go into the luxury fashion world in particular? Was it maybe your daughters?
Not really. It was a very irrational business decision. I come from a background where I understand consumer products. I had a lot of network and people that I knew, especially in Italy, who were working in the luxury business. I understood when I was in the government the power of creative business, when I was traveling around and seeing around the world what's happening in a place like China. And I could see the explosion of how, when a country like China is developing and becoming richer and the middle class is starting to develop, what appetite they have for luxury products. It was very clear to me that this is a sector and a market that will continue to grow for a very, very long time. And it has an amazing appeal and attraction. I was always attracted to something called a global brand. Even some of these global brands you see, they are not really consistent. Meaning that, if you have a Lipton tea, you have a different formula in Arabia than the one that you have in America, than the one you have in India. You have a different packaging, you have a different advertisement. One of the most unique businesses where you have a real global brands is luxury. Because if you have a Valentino bag today, it's the same bag in Brazil or it's the same bag in Japan, it's the same bag. It doesn't change in specification. The advertisement is the same, the communication is the same. And it's not only that, a small shop in Milano selling very, very limited assortment of products in luxury, they could go global in a matter of 1 or 2 years. So the luxury had this power of talking and speaking in a global language. And that was very attractive for me. I knew that this is going to be big. I knew that this is going to be very important in the future.